Hi, welcome to the Cybersecurity Risk Assessment narrated by Kombo and presented by Team USA. Today, we're going to be going over the agenda, which includes risk assessment overview, attack vectors, hacker motivations, current CVE and CAPEC risk, threat and vulnerability, attack vector mitigation, attribution, countermeasures, authentication, authorization, and access control, policy and enforcement, recommendations, and best practices. The risk assessment overview includes identification of current measures for authentication, authorization, and access control, identification of organizations' security vulnerabilities, which includes people, technology, and policy, against possible exploitation, and the risk recommendations. Before going into the risk management, let's talk about attack vectors. Attack vector categories include hardware, software applications, operating systems, telecommunication, and human factors. The attack vector type includes hardware attack vectors, which includes malware and UEFI firmware rootkits. The attacker exploits firmware remotely. The attacker physically tampers with the hardware and its components. The attacker installs management backdoors on the hardware and its components. The attacker places malware into the supply chain. The attacker uses BYOD to access internal networks of organization via Wi-Fi. The attacker installs malware in the kernel, causing it to fail. The software application attack vector type include phishing, unpatched vulnerabilities in the system, distributed denial of service, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and advanced persistent threats that causes disruption. The operating system includes Trojan horses, logic bombs, viruses, worms, denial of service, and buffer overflow. Telecommunication attack vector types include social engineering, phishing, and malware aimed at subscribers, distributed denial of service attacks on service providers' equipment, and port scanning, an attempted scanning of subscriber networks. The human factor includes social engineering, insider threats, which include nation-state actors, disgruntled employee, or human error. What motivates hackers? Hacker motivations include patriotism, profit, pride, curiosity, revenge, blackmail, day job, competition. Hacker actions include espionage, data theft, file damage, disruption, privacy invasion, attention seeking, and exploration. Now let's look at the hacker threat actions. The nation state actor, who is typically patriotic to his nation and a member of the foreign intelligence services of his country, may carry out espionage missions for his nation state. In this instance, working for an organization, he may install malware causing distributed denial of service attacks to occur. He will gain access in an unauthorized manner to data and perform data exfiltration. He will sabotage critical infrastructure such as power grids and so on. The profiteer will carry out phishing campaigns to make profit. The ego hacker who hacks based on his pride is an attention seeker who is seeking celebrity status and media attention. The curious hacker only hacks just to test tools and techniques such as HTTP injection code just to know the outcome. Revenge hacker is a disgruntled employee typically. He may download advanced malware into the system and cause disruptions to the system. The blackmail hacker may carry out social engineering campaigns, phishing, to get information for blackmail purposes. The day job hacker is one who would do anything to make his daily bread, including spy, steal data, destroy files, shut down organizations, network activities, and invade privacy. The competitive hacker is usually sponsored by either an organization or a state. He will sell compromised manufactured hardware or software to a competitor to gain economic advantage. See China's supply chain recent scandal, selling hardware with malicious microchips to United States companies. In the next slide, we can see the CVE and the CAPEC risk threat and vulnerability threat and impact assessment, along with confidentiality, integrity, and availability breach categorizations. Also listed below are the emerging risks. Mitigations for each threat are shown in the last column. Let's look at attack vector mitigation. Categories for this slide include software, hardware, human factor, operating system, and telecommunications. Software attack vectors include brute force. Mitigations for brute force include implementing system-generated passwords. Buffer overflows. Mitigations for buffer overflows may include modifying system kernel and source codes. Zero-day attacks. Mitigations for zero-day attacks may include running tabletop exercises to identify vulnerabilities and fixes, implementing supply chain risk management practices for commercially off-the-shelf software. SQL injection. Mitigation for this could include strong input validation. Hardware category has attack vectors such as blue snaffing. Mitigations for this could include disabling Bluetooth in your organization and making it a requirement. EUFI backdoor and malicious microchipping. Mitigations for this could include implementing supply chain risk management and system development lifecycle practices, making this an in-house and vendor requirement in service level agreements. The human factor has attack vectors which include social engineering, phishing, malicious insider, foreign spies, also known as nation-state actors. Mitigations for this could include isolating internal networks and external networks. Avoid sourcing technology or personnel from enemy or competitive nations. Share cyber threat information. Implement cyber threat awareness training for espionage, social engineering, and phishing. Implementing strong access control practices. Ensuring all employees go through security background checks and implementing monitoring and physical security. The operating system category has attack vectors such as logic bombs and Trojans. Mitigations for these could include implementing least privilege, removing unneeded services, running regular updates on systems, installing antiviruses on all systems, implementing OS hardening, implementing supply chain risk management, and software or system development security practices. Telecommunications category includes distributed denial of service attacks, targeted attacks, and advanced persistent threat campaigns. Mitigations could include patch management, OS hardening, system isolation and segmentation, increasing subscriber awareness, implementing intrusion detection and prevention systems, and implementing proper vendor management policies and practices. Current measures for authentication, authorization, and access control include authentication, which includes multi-factor authentication for systems, which includes the use of RSA tokens. Another factor includes biometrics, which is an aspect of multi-factor authentication, something you are. Authorization includes strong password enforcement and access control. For current access control measures, role-based access control with the use of the principle of least privilege is implemented and enforced. Countermeasures against cyber attacks include implementing multi-factor authentication, which includes something you have, something you know, and something you are, biometric. The goal of this type of countermeasure is to implement a layered defense against attacks. Prevent spear phishing by implementing and enforcing security awareness trainings, sending emails with hyperlink, and using responses to notify users of warnings. Stop executable codes on systems. Only allow execution of specific software. Deny other applications. Monitor all network activities. Best practices include development, security, operations, implementation, DevSecOps. This means using a baked-in approach rather than a layered approach for security. After every cyber attack, technical information about the network and computers between the attacker and the victim can be used for attribution. Attribution steps could include using legal, technological, and technical expertise to identify the attacker and their sponsor organization. Identifying the location of the attacker's infrastructure. Identifying the possible foreign nation involved in the attack. Ensuring attribution efforts and responses are in compliance with the rules of the International Law of State Responsibility on Cyber Warfare, written by the Tallinn 2.0 rules from 15 to 18. Seek guidance and authority from nation-state authority before using warrants. Work with law enforcement, including the FBI. The next slide, we're going to talk about cyber risk recommendations. The team strategy for cyber risk recommendation include risk acceptance, risk transference, risk mitigation, and risk avoidance. The team recommends accepting 4 risk activities, including the use of public-facing web servers, email use, virtual private network use, and the purchase of commercially off-the-shelf software. The attack likelihood for these risks is low. The impact of severity of an attack for this risk is medium. These risks are essential to the organization's day-to-day activities, and this is the appropriate risk response because they are within the organization's risk tolerance. Risk transfer. The team recommends transferring 3 risk activities to an outside party. These risks include vendor leased services, supply chain, and contractual services, including BYOD. This decision is made because the attack likelihood for such risks is high and the severity is high. Risks like this are not appropriate for the organization's risk tolerance. Transferring this risk is the appropriate risk response based on requirements in signed service level, and contract agreements. All organizations providing services for the organization will take responsibility for risk insurance and agree to take full liability for any risk-based incidents. The team recommends risk mitigation. Mitigating 3 risk activities by the application of framework controls. These activities include Wi-Fi access points use, insider threats, and design flaws. These activities have a medium likelihood of an attack and a high severity impact. Risk avoidance. The team recommends avoiding one risk activity due to multiple unresolvable vectors. This activity includes the use and implementation of Internet of Things, which is an emerging risk. The organization is still learning mitigation strategies for this type of risks. These risks like this are likely to cause catastrophic severity on the organization's finances, reputation, or cause irreparable damage or injury or loss, and may not be transferable to a third party. This risk response may be appropriate for the organization's risk appetite, as the identified risk exceeds the organization's risk tolerance. Required policy enforcements include identity and access management policy, threat and risk intelligence policy, third-party vendor management policy, including supply chain risk management, incident response planning policy, implement asset management policy, metrics reporting, training and awareness, and continuous monitoring.